Hey, welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Ben Luters, founder and art director of Fruitful Design and Strategy, and this is my business partner and brand strategist, Raj Lula. And today we have a very special episode. Today we're going to be showing off some of our favorite creative tools of the year.
Yeah, it's like Oprah's favorite things, and everybody. Actually,
none of these are Oprah's favorite things.
Well, and also we're not giving away any of these. So.
Yeah, that's right. And you get an iPad.
No. Yeah, I just thought it would be fun. People, I think this year more than anything, have asked a lot more about our process than they ever have, and I think part of that is how the economy has shifted, where people really want to be sure what they're investing in now. Mm-hmm. And before, I think it was a lot of like, oh, we got this grant, we have to do this project, and so like, come on, let's go. And it's about speed. And this year, and probably the last 2 years, it's been a lot more about people going like, hey, we're committing to this project, and we want to know for sure that you guys are worth investing in, that this is going well. And along those lines, sometimes we find clients that are secretly artists on the side, they paint or they write poetry or whatever, mm-hmm. or they also just are passionate about the kinds of craftsmanship and stuff that you and I find in different tools, because a lot of times we're surrounded by enough kind of cheap mass-produced stuff that
right.
that people want to know, like, how can I get a tool that is more worth investing in? And so
we're kind of nerds about.
Oh, yes.
Nice tools.
A lot of
too.
things. Yes.
So this gives us an opportunity to just kind of, scratch our own itch of, we just love cool stuff and we love talking about them and sharing them with others.
And share some things we love. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because even some of those things that they were going to share today, some of these things for me anyways, were things that I found out because other people shared about them on social media or elsewhere. And that's super cool. And there's nothing like that thing that happens when a creative person shows a little bit of their own process, shows a little bit of the tools that they use. And then you get to learn from that. Even if you're not in the exact same trade or whatever, hopefully some of these things will be inspiring to you. And I'd love to hear if any of you have used any of the tools that we're about to show. We'd love to hear what you think about them, or if you have better tools.
Better tools. Yeah,
you think this is all garbage and we need to upgrade for next year.
Yes. One thing I will mention right from the jump here is none of these products are sponsored. Although we would love if any of these folks want to reach out, especially any of our number ones, we would go ahead and if you want to sponsor us. But no, we're not earning anything by mentioning these things. These are things we actually use and just want to share with you. So if it improves your life at all, one of these I actually got stopped at a coffee shop 2 days ago, and they're like, "What is that?" and want to know. So, yeah, and we are saving our number one for last because, like good, clickbait engagement people, we're going to make you stick around
to the end.
So you'll never believe what number one is.
That's right. You'll never. So, how are we doing that? We're doing our top 5, basically.
Yeah, we're in our top 5 for the year, and so this isn't of all time necessarily. This is what we found value in this year. And so hopefully those will change over the years as we find other things or as our work changes or whatever. So
okay, Raj, you go first.
Oh, I will say too, these are physical tools. We are thinking about doing an episode on like apps and software because it would be so easy for us to just only have digital tools on here. So
that's right.
Yep, I'll go first though.
Okay, now you're gonna have to play something.
Coming in at number 5 for me is this guitar, and particularly this acoustic guitar. This is a Taylor Mini, and
beautiful. So
it's about half, not quite half the size, maybe 2/3 of the size of.
Yeah, it looks very small next to
my
me.
gosh,
It looks like an ukulele.
When I play this in public, which has happened a little bit recently, I feel like a giant, and so yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's easier on my back, which is good.
Super fun to play.
It
has
really
a beautiful
is,
sound, especially plugged in.
Yeah. Which I bought this 2021. Kind of mid-pandemic. Was tired of bringing. I have a full-size guitar that I've been playing for many years in churches and those kinds of places, and that felt really weird to me. Like playing the guitar that was associated with a whole life of being in public and like, and it's big. If you try to sit down on the couch with that guitar, it like hits the arm of the couch, and so you kind of have to like contort yourself all weird. This one, getting one that was like just the right size to play at home with my kids and just learn songs together. Ended up being a huge relief during that time, and so probably would have been the tool of the year for that year. This year, what's been interesting is as we've gone to working from home and just having a little bit different work style and schedule, music has come back into my life a little bit more in a way. I also had a elbow injury for a couple of years and sadly couldn't play very much, and that's been healed. And so now this year back, last week, you and I played publicly for the first time ever.
The first time I ever heard Raj sing was when we were practicing.
And for me, that was the first time in probably 7 or 8 years that I played publicly. So that was a lot of fun. And then that ended up last night I played at my kids' concert, and then I've got an open mic night coming up next week, and so
Raj is really just announcing his tour. So like he's basically transitioning from being a strategist to just being a famous musician. So which is fine. We're here for it.
There's a reason why I did not move to Nashville and become famous.
Hey, you can be a big fish in a small pond here in Omaha. Okay? You don't need to go to Nashville. We need musicians here.
I will say that's actually kind of an interesting thing about why this is a favorite creative tool to me, is that so often we can get on our own heads about that a creative pursuit only has value if you can make money on it, or if you're the best at it.
Exactly.
And I think one of the themes through some of my tools here is going to be that these are things I'm learning or growing in, and that is absolutely a worthwhile thing. You still get the dopamine and oxytocin benefits from doing these things. Even if you're not great at them, even if you're just like slowly improving. And if anything, that also helps you in your life of learning the, ever important growth mindset of just like, I'm a little bit better at guitar today than I was the day before.
Oh yeah.
If I pick it up and practice.
And I'll say too, from my own experience, and Raj already alluded, I'm also a musician as well. It kind of same thing, like a musician mainly at home, but occasional Christmas things here and there. But
we are for hire.
You are for hire. Yeah, hire us for your next party. But there's something about being able to do creativity in a different arena to inspire your or help you recover creativity in other arenas. So it's like it's still creative, but it's different than the kind of creative you have to be when you're on a strategy call or when I'm designing, visual elements. And so I think it's great to have other places that you experience creativity, whether it's making music or listening to music, things like that can really help you grow creatively.
And music is so collaborative too. I will say that almost every art form is better when it's collaborative. And even if you're just like painting in the same room as someone else, there's this concept called body doubling, where like you are more likely to do the thing if somebody else is in the room with you. And they don't even have to be doing the same kind of art, but if somebody's practicing the guitar at the same time that you want to paint, that means you're not watching TV together.
Right.
And it's funny because my wife always talks about how it's way easier to get errands done or to do some projects around the house or whatever if I'm not there, because together we want to just relax and connect and whatever. And sometimes it's just like it's like, oh, that's not what mode I'm in right now. But the opposite can be true too. If just somebody comes stands in the kitchen with you while you do the dishes, then it's a lot more fun, a lot easier to do the dishes.
That's a good point. All right, well, to move things along here for myself, I got a couple things to share. So Raj and I were talking.
So you're cheating from the beginning.
Cheating from the beginning. Hey, Raj told me I could. Yeah. But basically, I think as a visual artist, one thing that's really important to me is to be surrounded by products and things that are really well designed and inspire me creatively. So I've got a couple things here. One is this Fellow mug. And it's a super cool design, kind of looks like a Bluetooth speaker. The one really cool thing about it is on the inside, it's basically it's ceramic, kind of like just like a mug. And so it's supposed to improve the taste and whatnot. I think it does. Like, I prefer using this than a metal interior mug for my coffee personally. So I like the taste of it. It's very, very spill proof. So like I can just throw this in a bag upside down, whatever. I know Raj is probably stressing Raj out, but like seriously, like more than anything else, because it's a screw down lid with this like really great rubber, sealing mechanism. I've had no issues with it, and again, I've just thrown it in with priceless artifacts. And then the second item there is I've gotten into watches, like automatic watches. This is my favorite, green Seiko Alpinist. And automatic watches, for those that don't know, basically they wind from your movement. And so it's just a really cool design. You can actually see on the backside, there's like a glass case back where you can see the internal mechanism and stuff. You can actually feel this thing winding as you walk. And there's just something really cool about it. Watching like watch review videos online, like Teddy Baldessar and many others. I love watching just the macro photography of the details. This one's a really beautiful one when you look up close, but there's so many others that it's really about the design details. And the more I look at those things and this craftsmanship that's been built up over hundreds of years, actually, I'm just very inspired to be even more detailed than what I do, to not cut corners. Everything has to work so meticulously for a real watch to work. And it's just one of those things where you can just see the craftsmanship, the detail. And the other thing I would say, especially about like automatic watches, you can feel it too.
Yeah.
And there's something about that tactile experience, the materials used, just the sheer weight of it is just really, I don't know, it's really inspiring to me. Creatively.
Yeah. It's funny. I've got my Yeti mug here that I use. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know anything about ceramic and the taste or whatever. Problem. But I also even just have like a little box knife here that I use, and it is crazy how much a tool that's well designed and that and well designed is somewhat subjective. It's not entirely subjective by any means. But because like, you don't want a knife that you open and the like blade falls off or whatever. Well designed does have standards.
Yeah.
But some of it is color, feel in hand, how big your particular hand is, and those types of
It's not
things.
one size fits all.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But it does make you enjoy using those tools more. And this one's a box knife, and so it's like, if I'm using a box knife, I'm probably either unpacking from a move or helping somebody, and so I'm probably doing a job that's a little less enjoyable, but having a great, well-designed tool in the mix of that makes everything more enjoyable, especially if it's things to start your day or to keep time or whatever. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The watch keeps time as well. Sorry.
Oh, okay. It actually works. That's it's not just pretty. It's a bracelet. It's basically
a nice bracelet. All right, Raj, what's your next thing?
Yeah. I'm actually have to pull this one out of my pocket because that's where I keep it most of the time. And
there it is.
I apologize because these are like, dirty.
Hey, I've got some too. Mine look a little less patinaed.
Yeah. My AirPods Pro are my number 4 here. And I use these every day. I mean,
don't you have like a backup pair as well?
I do have a backup pair, yeah. And I remember the day that we went to the Apple store and tried these out, and I'd had AirPods before. I'd had some like Beats in-ear things, and I could not get around using them for Zoom calls because I didn't like kind of the isolating nature of having something in my ear, and it just felt like you get that kind of underwater, like Charlie Brown teacher kind of sound when you're talking.
You don't like that?
No,
the underwater Charlie Brown teacher sound.
And but when we the folks at the Apple store stopped us and invited us to try out the AirPods Pro. I was like, I've tried out the AirPods, and he goes, no, you have to try transparency mode. I was like, what is that? He goes, it's this feature where you can hear the world around you perfectly, and you can hear what's in your headphones. And he thankfully cleaned them off with an alcohol swab or whatever before I put them in my ears, because that was going to be gross. But but he cleaned them off, put them in, and I put them in my ears. And I could have a perfect conversation with you while there was music playing in those headphones. And
game changer.
Yeah. I mean, in 2020, I did almost 1,000 Zoom calls, and I don't feel like it's slowed down much since then, even as the world's opened up, and Zoom became so much more a part of all of our lives. Yeah. I will say that on my calls, I use a nice microphone, but I use the headphones as a speaker because I do notice that I like the sound quality of the microphone better for the person on the other side. And
always thinking of others, Raj.
Oh yeah, that's what we try to do around here. So, but love my AirPods Pro. I even put them in like sometimes at our kids' basketball games or whatever. If the crowd is too loud and I just want to like isolate just a little, and the new adaptive function on that where you can hear if somebody's talking to you and conversational awareness, all that kind of stuff. But you know, when the whistle blows and crowd cheers, all that kind of stuff, you can like dampen the world just a little bit if you need that.
No, that's awesome. Total game changer.
Yeah.
All right. So next, for me, it's got to be Lego, right? I'm not a real designer unless I also collect and build Lego. So this is my, the honorary Lego set I want to show off here. This is one Raj actually bought me for Christmas last year. And it's like a almost fully functioning typewriter. Really, really detailed, kind of back to what I was saying about the watches. But, there's just something about Lego. I've been into Lego since before I can remember. I think I was like maybe 4 years old when we got our first like Lego system brick set, me and my brothers. And it was just, off to the races from there. And so I really got into collecting pirate Legos. Many of you know I have a pirate themed book that just came out. Surprise, surprise. There's something to that. Maybe
you're gonna have a typewriter themed book here.
Typewriter. I'm doing it on a typewriter. I'm doing it on my Lego typewriter.
The book will come out never.
But Lego is just such a creative thing. You can literally just create whole worlds and storylines with Lego, and then just the process of building too and following the instructions is just super fun. Creating something kind of seemingly out of nothing or out of chaos, creating order out of chaos, as it were. And so, yeah, I find that that's so much fun. And even now that I've got kids of my own, 5 kids of my own, they're all super into Lego. And so it's something I can also connect with them on, and can kind of, I can tap into that childlike imagination and adventure and creativity with them because it's something they're equally into. And so, and the cool thing about Lego, we were just talking about this when one of my kids came up to me and was like, what color Legos did they have when you were a kid? And I was like, red, blue, yellow. Yeah, you use like primary colors, some green, like one shade of green and 2 shades of gray.
You want to make a person, they have to look like a Simpsons character.
Pretty much you're a Simpsons character. And it's just funny because like now, like Lego has hit a whole new, there's so many themes of Lego. There's so many colors, so much variety.
Even the mechanical elements.
The mechanical elements. Like some of the pieces on this set are like pieces that I had when I was a kid, but a lot of them are new and different and really, really cool. And so, their whole thing of adults welcome that Lego's been trying to, it's basically kids who were super into Legos in the late 80s, early 90s that are like, I still want to be into this. And that's what like this typewriter and some of the other, Raj knows I have a bunch of the plant sets. And Raj actually, this Taj Mahal is his and he built that. Very, very cool set. So there's something cool about any company, any product that is trying to help you tap into that childlike imagination and creativity for adults. That's a good thing in my book because it's a shame how quickly we lose that as adults and we get into the real world. So trying to keep that kind of magic, imagination, discovery going, especially for creative people who are being paid to be creative. Sometimes you need things like this to inspire that creativity.
One thing that I discovered in playing with Lego for the first time in a long time was that I really like puzzles, but puzzles can be kind of too similar to working at a desk, where you kind of have to like lean over it. In fact, maybe a little bit worse than working at a desk because you have to like lean over it and like your shoulders can ache after a little while, that sort of thing. With Lego, because you can like kind of move it towards you a little bit, you still probably have to sit at a table to do most of these especially complicated sets, but you get the same satisfaction of doing a puzzle without kind of some of the drawbacks. And also puzzles take up like your entire dining room table if you're doing a 1,000-piece puzzle.
Right, and then when it's done, it's just, then you have to like destroy it. Whereas Lego, you can like have this beautiful memento of that thing that you have.
Now it does make me want to be like the bad guy in the Lego movie, and because I do like, I kind of want to crazy glue the
business,
the Craggle,
glue it all together.
I kind of want to crazy glue the Taj Mahal because it's got such fine parts, but we'll just be really careful.
That cracks me up, dude. All right, Raj, what's next for you?
Yeah, number 3 for me is my camera, this little one here. Yeah. And honestly, I was kind of torn because I have had the chance, like the concert that we played at last week. I got the Canon R5 out, which is what we filmed the podcast on. It's my main professional camera, and I do love that camera. It's an
amazing camera.
Fabulous. The color reproduction, the lenses, all that kind of stuff. But this one is a Canon R10. It's what I call my beat around camera. It's the one that I'm not afraid to throw in the car and accidentally forget
throw in the lake.
No, accidentally forget in the console of my car or something like that. And just like open it up and go, oh great, I do have a camera with me. It's better than my iPhone for image quality. Mm-hmm. And I have a friend, Matt Elwood, who's a photographer down in Lincoln, and he asked me one time, he's like, hey, what's your like beat around camera? What's your camera that you keep and take everywhere? I go, oh dude, I don't have one. I only have professional cameras. He goes, oh, you need one. Every photographer should have a camera that is better than their phone, but is something that they don't mind beating up a little bit, mm-hmm. taking in a little bit dangerous, like, oh, it might rain or whatever, and just like, it's affordable enough that if you have to repair it or replace it, and that you don't mind as much. And he was 100% right, because when your creativity is limited by, I don't want to, the R5 is heavy, isn't, compared to the older models, it's, they're getting lighter. Mirrorless is great and everything, but it's heavy, it's complicated, it's very expensive. And there are situations that I don't want to bring it into. So then you're like, well, is it an iPhone or is it nothing, basically? Yeah. And this one has bridged that gap. And the great thing is it's interchangeable with my super professional lenses. So there's been a couple of times where even though this camera's tiny, I put the giant 70 to 200 lens on it.
A little top heavy there.
The kid's soccer game. Yeah, you do kind of have to make sure it doesn't snap itself in half. Although they're very strong. Yeah. But I love this camera. Several of you might have seen that last year I did a 365-day photo challenge. It's the first one I've ever done, even despite being a photographer for almost 10 years now, or no, for almost 13 years.
Was it all done with that camera?
No, I would say probably about 50% of it 50%. Was. But the nice thing is that what I did find is that I would go out and take, 100 photos, cull them down to 15, 20, and that would be my photo a day for 2 weeks. And, it's like getting to share this work and that work. And I was always so much more proud of those than the ones that I took with my iPhone.
There's something different that happens when you're shooting through a camera as opposed to the phone. Like these phones are amazing. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. I'm happy to have it. But it's just something changes when you're looking through that viewfinder. I don't know what it is.
I think part of it's the focus of like, the way you hold I'm not going to get a notification while I'm doing this. Yeah. And I think people also, when you hold a phone up to take a photo, they expect you to do it fast. When you hold up a nice camera, you expect and they expect for you to compose it a little bit. It's like, why bother having the nice camera out if we're just going to like bite, And so it's, I think it just makes sense. There is this kind of psychological thing of like, we're trying to make something good here. And I really appreciate that about this. Very similar to buying a smaller guitar. Oh yeah. Which is funny because I'm a big guy. And so I never thought I wanted smaller tools, but things that are easy to hold in your hand, that are easy to just like sit next to the couch and play on the couch, that kind of thing, make it easy to use, make it easy to create. Yeah. And even though I can tell all the technical ways this is not as good as my R5, but if it's a matter of taking a photo or not taking a photo, then having something that's not quite as good, but will still get you 80% of the way. Is worth it. Rather than just like, I'm not going to create today.
Exactly. Well, and I just want to piggyback onto this because Raj actually got me into, on the same line of reasoning. I have my little go-to beat around camera is this Fuji X100F. And Raj and I actually both got matching X100Fs years ago, and then he eventually switched it out for the Canon that he's showing off. And some of that, I think, probably Raj is just your love for Canon and the way that. And I agree with him because I kind of grew up with Canon as well, and sometimes it's hard to get used to just the way that Fuji does color or whatever.
Yeah,
but it is really, really fun. It's also this is a beautiful camera. I do love it a lot. I don't use it as much as I wish sometimes, but it's a great to have something you can throw in your bag. You can kind of go, and all the things that Raj said, I just want to agree with. And I recommend anyone, even who just kind of dabbles in photography and stuff, or iPhone, maybe just iPhone photography. You think you enjoy composing stuff. I recommend getting a small, beat around kind of camera that can kind of just take you away from your phone. I think anything that can kind of take you away from your phone and that has one purpose, there's something about that. And I know that's maybe a little Easter egg of some of the stuff we're going to get into a little later in this episode.
Can I just say, something just really here in what we're saying is that it's okay to try different tools. Like you're not a failure if, I bought the Fuji X100 just like Ben, and that camera became very popular.
I know. I probably should sell mine
right after we bought it. I sold mine, I think, for the same price that I bought it, which almost never happens with any kind of electronic or photography equipment. And it was a couple years old at that point. They were super hard to find on the market for a long time. They still might be, and so I felt a little bit ashamed of just like I should love this thing, and I just didn't. And there's nothing wrong with it. I've shot Canon for years, and I can probably without even opening my eyes, could change the settings on a Canon camera.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it with the Fuji, and so it was in the way between me.
Full disclosure,
and
like Raj is like a professional photographer. So like when we were first working together, he had a professional photography business. He was doing weddings like every weekend. He was doing senior photos, like everything, family photos. And so he's someone who, in another life, like you're using Canon cameras.
Yeah, they were an extension of my hand.
It was an extension of your hand for like your actual business. And so when you want something that's effortless that you don't have to think about, it makes sense that you're going to gravitate towards that thing that you just know so well.
Yeah, I liked the challenge of trying a new thing, but ultimately decided that it was time to move on from it and get this instead. And I will say, even if I had to sell it for less, so say, I don't know exactly the prices, but say you buy it for 1,000, then you have to sell it for 800. I think that there's an amortization of the cost where you go, hey, if I use this 20 times over 2 years, and it's like it cost me $10 a time, that's okay. Like think about it like I was taking photography lessons 20 times over, and I only paid $10 for that. That's great. That's
not bad.
To get any sort of art lesson for that cheap is impossible, basically. Unless you're only taking it online or something. And so don't feel shame in that. Like there will be some waste, quote unquote, in the process as you're finding the right tools, as you're trading things in, as you're messing around with things. And that doesn't make you a failure. That makes you a person who's progressing.
Exactly.
And that's okay. It's also okay to pick up a hobby that you end up parting with later. I've had kids try different instruments, whatever.
Right.
And it's really important to give yourself the freedom to explore. What you gain out of learning and trying is valuable. And you could put a price to that if you wanted to. Don't feel locked in. If you go, oh my gosh, this thing was so expensive and now I'm such an idiot, whatever. No, say, I tried a thing and now I know more about myself and more about this craft. And that helps me know what my next thing is going to be. And all the research on creativity shows that it helps you make better connections in your brain, connections in your work. It makes you a more empathetic person, all of those things. And there are not many more worthy investments of your time.
Exactly, because you can't really know what you love unless you've tried a lot. Tried some things, like actually put yourself out there. All right, next. Oh yeah, so ever since I was a kid, probably again around 4 or 5 years old, I got into journaling. And so before I could even write, actually, so I might have been like 3 or something like that. I remember like dictating my daily journal entries to my mom. I guess my mom kind of got me into this. So I have tons and tons of journals, including some of those journals from when I was very, very little. Really funny to read some of those now. I have some short stories in there, some Lego themed stories in there. But I want to show you a couple different journals or notebooks that I use. So one is, I always just have a like nice journal that I can that I'm kind of working through at a moment. This one right here is a specifically a especially nice journal. So this is actually goatskin leather. It's made by Skylar, which is actually, they make like premium Bibles, but they also make journals, and it's really beautiful. It lays really flat. It has, a nice little ribbon chapter marker type thing. It has numbered pages as well, and it's this really soft and supple goatskin leather, and it's green, and I love green. So that's really special. It's really expensive though, and so this is not an everyday thing. This was a very special thing, and I'm almost done with this one. So if you want to buy me another, that'd be great. But then the next kind of notebook is having a little pocket notebook that you can have with you to just jot little creative ideas down. So helpful. I started doing that, especially in college. I'd have these little moleskin notebooks, and just to be able to jot down my ideas. And I wanted to shout out specifically these are handmade journals by a friend of ours, Anthony Banks. They're called Minecraft Field Journals. His company is called Noticed Stationery. We'll flash that up on the screen. But like, he hand makes these in his home. In fact, I ordered a bunch of these for stocking stuffers for the kids, and he like DM'd me on Instagram saying, "I'm making your notebooks right now." Like, he's hand sewing them, and he has a lot of cool different paper types, including this like isometric grid style, which is just super fun. My kids love them. And so again, they're just simple. Have them in your pocket, ready to go. Jot down your notes, because especially now that Raj and I have entered into the world of writing fiction novels. Sometimes you get an idea for something in your book or whatever, and then unless you get a quick voice memo in or jot it down on a scrap of paper that you have handy, sometimes you'll lose those ideas. You get these like, oh man, they should do this in the story, or this should happen. And you sometimes have to capture that magic. And what better way to do it than if you have a little notebook on you?
Yeah. Does your mom do you still dictate them to your mom, or do you actually write these
That's right.
yourself?
I should do that. That'd be interesting. I don't know if I'd want my mom to dictate all my journals.
I just picture you as like a 4-year-old, but also as like a 1920s detective being like, "Take this down."
That's exactly how it went. That's exactly how it went, man. Oh, dude, it's wild seeing some of those stories. Some of them again were just journal entries, like what I did that day. Sometimes I'm like mad at one of my brothers and I'm making my mom write down how mad I am at somebody. But then some of them are just like these crazy stories that I started writing then, which is funny because like here I am writing, fiction for kids now. And it is something that I kind of always was doing if you were to kind of look through the ages.
It's like dictate a letter to Highlights magazine. There were 11 cats in that picture, not 10.
I got Highlights magazine. That's true. I was more of a goofus than a gallant. That's a deep dive for you there.
Take me back to Dr. Curry's dentist office waiting room.
Oh man. All right, now we've come to number 2 on our list. Raj, what is your second most creative tool of 2024?
Yes. So it's hard to actually show this one, so I'm going to show the book instead. So we have Building a Story Brand here. And in fact, this is not what it's going to look like, probably even by the time that you hear this podcast or read this
2.0.
Or read this podcast.
Hey, there's transcripts.
Yeah. By the time you view this podcast on YouTube, as tens of people do, or listen to this. Yeah, Story Brand 2.0 is going to be out by then. I believe it's coming out in January here, and it'll have a red cover. But either way, Building a Story Brand, huge part of our creative world here. But the tool is actually called a brand script. It is. In fact, I would love to have Mike put one on the screen for us here. It uses the 7 elements of story to position your customer as the hero of the story and position you as the guide to their success. This is huge. And I know you've heard us talk about it a lot if you're at all familiar with the podcast, but I use this not only for client work, but also for my own work, for thinking about who should read my book, The Caring House, or how we should talk about, even a podcast episode. Like what do we want to accomplish for people? How do we want to serve people through this? And that's,
I heard, didn't you use it for finding my Christmas gift as well? Wasn't that?
No, I did not.
He starts his Christmas shopping with a brand script.
Actually, I mean, to that point, one of the things that I love about Christmas and the holidays is that if you think about it like a story of you go, okay, at the end, I want the result of the story to be like this. It does actually clarify for you.
See, I knew it.
How you should work all the way backwards to what gift you should get somebody or how you should host an event, those types of things.
Starting with the end in mind.
Yeah, I ran into somebody recently who attended my high school 20th reunion, and I was on the board of that. I was one of the two people in charge of that whole event. And she's like, this gal ran into her at Starbucks, and she said, "How did you feel about how it went?" And I said, it was honestly one of the few things in life that lived up to my expectations. Which, especially with as fraught as high school can be.
I was gonna say a 20th anniversary reunion, that could be really bad.
Oh yeah, and most of the ones you see on TV are, there's a classic 30 Rock episode about I don't know if it's her 20th or later than that, a reunion, but it's just like all of the old insecurities coming up, like all of those things. And what we did with that is we was like, okay, how do we want people to feel at this? And so we built the whole event around kind of this idea that connection is really what we wanted. And so we wanted to find easy ways for people to connect, especially people who hadn't seen each other in a long time. Right. So we even did this kind of like game slideshow thing where people could text in answers. And so we put questions on the screen, like who had the coolest car or whatever. And it kind of
was it you?
No.
What was your car? What was your first
I drove
car?
a Buick Regal.
I mean, it sounds fancy.
It was blue, and we called her Bluey. Long before the dog.
Should have trademarked that.
I know. Yeah. But that made like a low friction way for people to kind of tell memories of going like, oh, so and so had such a cool car. We would go wherever in it, and even people that like I didn't really know, I felt a little more connected to. Go, oh, that's cool, man. You drove a Trans Am or whatever, and it's like that was cool back then. So starting with the end in mind, knowing where you want the story to go, really determines everything. And with the brand script tool, it's got 7 elements of story. So that includes your problem, how you feel about that problem, what your customer's problem, how they feel about it, your solution to it, what gives you authority to offer them solution. There's other parts to the plan, call to action, all of that. And what that does is that it actually can help you write your entire year's worth of marketing because you can brainstorm things for each one of those boxes and make that your content for the year. So if people are, so like with our business, people have struggles with branding. They need, maybe we do a whole brand script for a logo, just the logo product, the branding product. And it's like, they need a logo. How do they feel about their logo? Either they don't have one and they feel stressed about that, or they have one that they don't like, which is embarrassing. And so how can we help overcome that? Well, with you being in graphic design for 20 years now, Fruitful being in existence for over half that long, so for 12, 13 years now, and us having, probably over 100 satisfied branding clients at this point, that's how we can bring authority into this. But it doesn't start with us going like, well, we won all these awards and check this out, and so buy this thing from us that you don't need. It's like, well, you come to us with your need. You're trying to build a business, you're trying to start an organization or a church or whatever, and you need a brand for that. And we're here to help you with that because we want you to help your thing succeed. And so the brand script tool, I use it for, again, everything. It's not just high level of like what should our website say, but also we write keynote decks off of them.
Yeah.
We even individual podcast episodes or web pages about a particular product. It's not uncommon for a brand for a company to have 4 or 5 or 6 brand scripts underneath their kind of parent marketing message.
Do you remember before we used brand scripts? Like it was like a night and day difference just having a framework, let alone a proven one that really works and is like rooted in, history and science and everything. But it's just so great to have a plan that you can stick with and you can use as the basis for everything. And so, I feel like it's unleashed a lot of creativity in our company and a lot of possibilities because it helps rule out a lot of the noise. A lot of things that people think their website needs to be about. It really focuses you. And so, that's kind of a theme I think in a lot of the things we're sharing today is like things that really help you focus on something can really unlock new levels of creativity because you're kind of creative within a bounds, within a framework.
Before we started using StoryBrand framework, even before we were certified, the messaging was good. Like I've to whatever.
Great
writer. I don't want.
He was setting me up for it. You're a great writer, Raj.
I've had a way with words for a while. And I always felt good about the messaging that we're writing for people, but there was a lot more sense that it was subjective in that, and maybe it was at that time. But having a framework that everybody agrees on from the beginning, saying like, hey, we want to make our customer the hero of the story. And if that's true, heroic stories have a structure. It's the same ones that's used in Harry Potter and Hunger Games and Star Wars.
You think you're smarter than Harry Potter? Is that where we're going? Yeah. You do kind of start with that, and it kind of makes them feel like, well, I mean, I guess if it worked for George Lucas, I mean, who am I?
But it is a tried and true framework.
Exactly.
Joseph Campbell wrote a book called The Hero's Journey, that's famous, been around for a long time, and all of your favorite, Hollywood writers, your novelists who are writing heroic stories, do this. And if you want to make your customer the hero of the story, which so many great businesses do, bad ones don't. Like you call the cable company, sometimes you don't feel like you're the hero of the story, but good businesses want to make their customers feel like the hero of the story. And there's a proven formula to do it. Our friend, Dr. JJ Peterson, who we've had on the podcast, definitely feel free to check out his episode. He got his PhD, wrote his dissertation in the efficacy of this storytelling framework.
Yeah, that's true.
And all that they have found, it works across nonprofit, for-profit, everything. The only thing they found that limits effectiveness of this is how much you do it. Like if you only do it on your website but don't do it in your emails, if you only do it in an ad campaign but you don't do it on your website, that's the only thing that limits the efficacy of it.
It's crazy.
And so now we don't have to go in and say, do you like these words? We go, do these words conform to the structure that we know works? That's the real power of this tool. And it's disciplining for me too. It's not just like, what do I feel like would be fun or good or clever here? It's, does this really conform to the framework that we know works, that has been studied to work? And I've even had clients in meetings say, hey, but is that really the emotional problem that they're having here? And then we all take a step back, go, you know what, you're right. And then we try again and we get to a good place. And this tool has really changed how we can help people, and it's done so powerfully. Ben's mom says that we're special, but we won't know unless you like and subscribe.
How do you know what my mom says?
How about you? What's number two?
Number two on mine is, okay, this is basically like Ben's into fancy things episode. So I've also gotten into, my wife jokes that I just have too many expensive hobbies, but one that I really love is fountain pens. And so what I have here is a couple fountain pens that I actually got at Postscript in Ashland, Nebraska.
Love them.
Beautiful store. Our friend Laura runs this place. amazing stationery, pens, markers, all kinds of things for your office, books. Raj's book is actually for sale there if you want to get it in person.
Only the best books.
Only the best books. That's right. They haven't even. My book's not even there yet. Still working on it. But anyways, so yeah, these are a couple from this brand called Calico. Really beautiful, but fountain pens, it's kind of an old-fashioned way of doing things. They need gravity and all that. You got to switch out these, the ink on the inside. But there's something about just the way that they flow, the way that they write, the way that there's variation in line. I also switch out different colors. I just really, really enjoy having a nice pen. They also just tend to be kind of designed really well to kind of fit in your hand. The size of them is really good for me. And so, yeah, there's some more variables to them. I've had them where they've, exploded ink everywhere. Like I've had issues. They go dry sometimes. So there's some challenges to them, but it's just kind of an old world way of doing things. And I find that I just enjoy writing, taking notes, jotting down thoughts with a good fountain pen. And Calico, I think I'm saying that right, this German brand since 1883, is like my new favorite brand, mainly thanks to Postscript. So
yeah, that's awesome. Let's switch it up. Let's let you do your number one.
Oh, Raj wants to.
Before I do mine.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So I just started with these old world writing utensils, but my number one, and it's my number one for 2024, but it's probably been my number one for a long time. It's just an iPad Pro.
It's a brown folder.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's right. Everything I have is in a light brown, leather case. But yeah, it's an iPad Pro. Let's see here, and an Apple Pencil. This product was just an absolute game changer for me. I've had an iPad for about 13 years. I've had some form of iPad. So that's even before iPad Pro and Apple Pencil. I was using various styluses for styli. How do you say that? I don't know how to try. Stylia.
No, I think it's styluses.
But like, this was a game changer for me when they came out with the Apple Pencil. The connection to the screen, it's so smooth, it's so responsive. You're able to get such amazing gesture control. It can, when I'm drawing, and I primarily draw in Procreate, that's my app of choice. I know we're not getting into software so much today. We'll save that for another time. But, it can detect your palm. It's not going to be, super messy. So it really just, I do all of my sketching there. A lot of my finished illustration work is done on the iPad as well. And I use my iPad for a lot of different things, but I do a lot of finished work on it. And at first I thought, oh, this would be a great way to like take notes or whatever. And I do use it for that some, but really I'm amazed at like the professional work that I actually do. So, really tool wise, this tool has helped us earn more money than a lot of other tools. For me personally, you might even be able to argue that I've, generated more money or, served more clients with this tool than even like my MacBook Pro, potentially. So yeah, it's gotta be the iPad for me.
Yeah. And I think maybe one of the reasons for that is that you start with sketching,
Exactly.
We talk to young designers all the time. In fact, we see this if we hire really young designers or let them do internships or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's this tendency with designers to start in the computer. Mm-hmm. And that's really easy these days, especially when you're like, oh, I saw this inspiration piece from wherever that we want to emulate, take the Lexus logo and, make an H for whatever reason,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so easy to start there. What we found happens when people do that is that they get really attached. Like they put so much work in making it look perfect that they kind of just want the client to say yes. Like, you just like, oh yeah, you're right, you're a genius, Like, this
you got
great.
It right
this
the first time.
H of Lexuses or the Lexus of H's or whatever,
But that's the opposite of how we like to work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I've just come to admire so much in your work is that, I'll have, I sit in all the same branding meetings almost that you do. And I'll be like, oh, I think I know what this is going to look like at the end. And then, I see your sketches and it's dozens, sometimes 100 sketches that it's like, I didn't even know there were so many ways to do an H,
I didn't know either until I started sketching.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beauty of it. But yeah, that's a really good point. And that's a lot of the reason why this thing gets so much mileage is because, we start everything with hand-drawn sketches. And one of the cool things with the iPad is it can just kind of streamline that. Yeah. I can have like little thumbnail sketch templates ready to go, so I don't have to reinvent that. I can do straight lines faster. I can undo. I can do circles faster. Yeah. I can do fills. So it's just hand-drawn sketching, but it's kind of streamlined in a way. Yeah. And so I'm able to just move that much faster, but it's still that tactile thing. And so we've even started doing this thing, which a lot of our clients just rave about. We're finding that people really love this part of our process, is that we actually show our hand-drawn sketches. Yeah. They're will say they're pretty nice sketches. So they're not as sketchy as some sketches might be.
You're a good drawer.
Yeah, I'm fishing for we're just fishing for compliments today. But they're cleaned up sketches, but they still are hand-drawn sketches, and we show those more often than I think a lot of people would feel comfortable. But that's how we work. We like to bring people into the process with a lot of guidance along the way.
Yeah, I think
hopefully not an overwhelming way.
Yeah, I think we're actually going to try to do a whole episode about that brand process, because again, we've been asked about it a lot more in the last couple of years, and it's amazing to me how much people care about that process. But then also, whenever you're so close to something, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, this is the first time for you, or the first time in a long time for you. And so for them getting to see the genesis of the idea and not just like, oh, it's clear you worked on this for a really long time, but we don't like it. And then there's hurt feelings and all that kind of stuff. When you bring them in so early in the process, it's so great because then they can say, be honest.
Exactly. Well, I think, if people often don't know, your process, unless you tell them, they don't know how you're going to do it. And I think a lot of people's fear, their unspoken fear, seems to be that they're going to be afraid that they're going to, fork out all this money for a new logo, and you're going to go into your hobbit hole, we call it, and come up with 3 finished logo designs and tell them to pick one. And that can be really scary to people. So when we show them in our sales process, like, no, we're gonna show you, hand-drawn sketches, and we're gonna iterate on those, and then we're gonna slowly work our way into the computer, and then we're gonna get into color. Like, it's this whole collaborative, kind of dance that we do with the client. I mean, I just watch people's faces change as I go through that. They go, oh, that's so cool. That's so exciting. That's so interesting. Like, you actually care about, my voice, and you're going to work with me, and it's not going to feel like this kind of one-sided transaction. And so, we need to talk about it more, because it does seem to be the thing that oftentimes will sell a client on us, is when we show that part of the process.
Yeah. And I love that the iPad for you, you're not sitting here like, you make one mistake on a sketch and then have to like wad up the piece of paper, throw it, and be surrounded by crumpled pieces of paper. Now it's crumpled iPads. So
now it's crumpled iPads, exactly. Oh, dude. I mean, I will say the magic of undo, like the little like double tap thing, like it's incredible. Like it really can streamline things and save a lot of trees in the process.
It's funny because I'm such the strategist that like I have Procreate on my iPad as well.
Yeah.
But my kids use it more than I do. And so whenever sometimes I'll draw just to relax or whatever. And my daughter Noelle will come up to me and be like, oh, why didn't you do it this way? It's like, I literally did not know you could. And then she'll teach me. She'll just absolutely school me on.
Dude, my kids teach me stuff on there too. Like, so cool. We should have an episode where it's just our kids doing this, like Noe and Jonah or something, and they can just like teach people how to actually use the programs that we
love
use.
It. Love it.
All right, Raj.
Okay.
What's your number one?
This one for me, like I cannot believe how much it has changed my year. And that's
it's remarkable how much has changed your year.
He's stealing my thunder here. No, I mean, so this is called The Remarkable. That's why.
Oh yeah,
little
sorry.
joke here.
I stole your thunder.
Yeah, so The Remarkable. This is the Paper Pro.
Oh, I've got the old version.
Yeah, he has The Remarkable 2, because I literally ordered the Remarkable 2 a number of days before they released the Remarkable Paper Pro, and I told Ben, I was just like, hey, I'm just going to send that one back because I was still in my return window, and I'm going to order the new one.
I was like, why don't you show it to me first? Let's see if I want this.
Yeah. And he did, and a lot of it. So I know there's not much you can see, especially with a little glare on the screen here. But even our notes from today's episode, we've been sitting here doing on the Remarkable, and it's a lot like using the Apple Pencil on a tablet, except for the big difference here is this is an e-ink screen, and so it's not meant to be full color. You can watch movies on here. You can check your email. All
super
this
bright notifications.
That one doesn't even have a backlight. This one has a backlight, but I keep it off 90% of the time. They're both primarily black and white. This one has color that you can do.
But do you use it, Raj?
I do use it some. Actually, it's actually really interesting to be able to highlight on an e-ink screen. Anybody who's used a Kindle, the reader has used an e-ink screen, and so it's those screens that look like paper, essentially, like an old newspaper almost.
Oh yeah.
And for me, the reason this has been such a game changer this year is that this is what I wanted my iPad Pro to be when I got my iPad Pro, because unlike Ben, I'm not sketching a lot. Like I said, I'll maybe draw for relaxation or something, but I take a lot of notes. I take a lot of notes, and like the way that my brain works the best is for me to handwrite my notes. But anybody who's worked at Fruitful will tell you that that's a problem, because Raj writes notes on his desk, and then those notes stay on his desk. And there's something about the process of writing 3 pages of notes and trying to take pictures of them and remember to upload it to the cloud so that everybody else can blah, 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 or put it in the Slack. It's too many steps for me, especially, I mentioned that a few years ago, I did 1,000 Zoom calls in a year. And it's it's too many steps when you're trying to get from one thing to the next, and it just wasn't working for me.
Yeah, especially like in the sales side of things too.
Yeah, sales, strategy meetings, all those kinds of things. Like I would be the one for the company who would be often at like somebody's office, and like, okay, this is great. Okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. And as soon as I get back to our team, they're going to get started on this. Well, if I'm going straight to another meeting, you guys would have to wait till the end of the day to know what that meeting was about.
Right.
And maybe longer if I forgot to upload my meeting, or if I left that notebook at home or whatever. And we thought that the iPad Pro was going to solve that problem. One of my biggest complaints about the iPad Pro is battery life. And I love my problem, and I don't want to talk any trash about Apple because we do want them to sponsor. No, because I actually I love my MacBook Pro. I love my AirPods Pro, and I even do love my my iPad Pro. But I felt like every time I reach for it, it's like, oh, it's an 18% battery life, and it's not going to get me through the day. So I either have to plug in at a client's office or whatever. And the other thing is that, with it being full color, with it being a place where like my notifications are coming through, all of that kind of stuff, it made me less present in those meetings as opposed to more, like I wasn't connected in the good way.
Well, because it's like the iPad's like the Remarkable plus your iPhone.
Or your computer.
And it's like a mix between your iPhone and your computer, which is like, it's not great for focus. Like for me personally, like, I was like writing a lot of my book on the iPad, but then half the time I'm ending up on Instagram somehow, or I'm on Facebook, and I'm getting like notification or Slack. Now I'm back. Now I'm in work mode. It's like there's just too much there, and obviously, I should just be more self-disciplined or whatever. But shouldn't we all? But it's like shoulda, woulda, coulda, and there's something about Remarkable being so focused and pared down.
Well, we talk
about
essentials. There's that book called The Design of Everyday Objects, and that book talks about how if you ever push on a door that's actually a pull, and you feel like an idiot, and you say like, oh, I should just be more disciplined. It's like the door is actually designed wrong. Like there should be design cues, whether it's a handle or a push bar or whatever, that tells you how to open that door, and it's not your fault because you'll watch 10 other people do it.
Yeah, we're all dumb.
You know, I remember we used to sit in the cheap seats at the College World Series when it was back at Rosenblatt Stadium, and there was this place where people would trip like every time. We actually kind of purposefully sat right in front of that. It was sometimes we would count how many people tripped, and it's like part of it was like a warped board situation or whatever, but it's like these people weren't dumb for tripping. Like it wasn't maintained correctly. It wasn't designed correctly for people not to trip. And I feel the same way about the iPad. Like it's not designed for my attention to stay focused. Even with focus modes and all those things. It's designed for me to do a million things. This tool, this Remarkable Paper Pro, it was also the same on the Remarkable 2. Has actually changed the amount of deep work that I can do.
Oh yeah.
I've never been great about a journaling habit. I believe it's important, but it's something that I've never been
not important enough. Well, you dictate to my mom. That's what I recommend if you want to start journaling.
But part of it is like, do I carry? I like Moleskine notebooks, and it's like, do I carry a personal Moleskine and a work one, and or whatever, and
the decision fatigue, of it all.
and the heavy backpack and all of this. This is like carrying, I probably have 50 notebooks on here.
Yeah. Oh, and plus, just for viewers, like we actually have keyboard cases on here, so the actual devices themselves are so impossibly thin. I mean, it's like it boggles the imagination. They're so light and thin.
And then here's it with the keyboard out.
Yeah, and these keyboards. So the funny enough, Raj and I are both into these things, but I think for slightly different reasons.
Yeah,
I've been taking some physical notes on here, but I still love, like I just shared, I love my pens, I love my notebooks. I use it for that. I'm playing around with it for that to see if I use it more. But really, the keyboard is what sold me because of what I just mentioned. How like my last book, I was writing on my laptop, on my iPad, but the focus was so hard. It was hard for me to get into the zone and that bright screen on your eyes all the time, even with great apps like Scrivener and stuff that we were using. And so I was like, I want to try to write the sequel of my book on this thing. I've already written, I'm on chapter 11 or 12 right now. And it's just going so much faster. I'm really enjoying it because you can really tune out all those distractions. You have one thing you're doing and you're just typing. You're not worrying even about spell check or anything. There's not all, I can't change fonts. I can't, as a designer, I could just get like stuck in those modes of like the possibility. Should I do, should it be a dark screen or dark mode, light mode? Should I use this font? Should I use that font, this size, zoom in, zoom out? Like even just within the word processor, I can find ways to distract myself. And like, I'm just limited what I can do. And for me personally, it really gets me into a different mode. It feels like I'm writing by hand on a piece of paper, even though I'm typing, as opposed to if I was on my iPad, and even on my most disciplined days, I'll end up on Facebook at some point.
It's so weird. It kind of has this like, it's a typewriter because it's not a computer.
Typewriter.
It's a typewriter, but it's also a notebook at the same time, and it's connected, but it's connected in a great way. Because it syncs to the Remarkable app on my computer and on my phone, so I can have that information anywhere, and then I can also email files directly from here. So this year, one of our kind of small innovations has been designed an order form for me, because I'll have all these sales conversations. I'll forget to ask all the questions. You know how like when you go hang out with somebody you haven't seen in a long time, and your wife will be like, "Oh, how's his wife doing? She was in the hospital," and be like, "It didn't come up at all."
It was like, every time I meet with my brother-in-law, he's like, "Oh yeah, did you get the update on so and so?" I'm like, that never came up.
It's like, we only talked about Legos. I'm so sorry, And so we were kind of having that problem with sales meetings where like I just get in with the client. I want to know about their thing, and I'm really excited to hear about that. And then they're like, when do they need this project done by? It's like, oh, that's a great question. I should have asked that question, And so we created a standardized order form that I still will take pages of notes after the order form, but that form requires me to ask like when it needs to be done by, even when do they need the proposal by. Do they need a proposal or do they just need a contract? Like, a lot of things that we encountered a lot. And you helped us on our friend Dan Cumberland's advice, create an order form. Yeah, but then it was like, okay, do I have a stack of paper order forms on my desk?
Yeah.
Do I do it on my iPad Pro and get distracted?
I feel like this was really the thing that got you into the Remarkable.
Yeah,
you were like, oh, I think this will work.
Yeah.
You were like looking into it, and then we pulled the trigger. And I just filled out that order form for the first. I had a random sales meeting. Usually Raj's the one doing that, and it's great. It really gives you like a pattern to what you should be asking, and then it helps streamline the process.
Like, I know it sounds weird to gush about a product this much, especially when it is ostensibly a dumber product.
Right. It's intentionally low tech.
And one thing I will say, kind of last thing, functionality wise, is that we use Slack as our communication system internally, and each Slack channel, you kind of have to dig for it a little bit, but can have an individual email address. And so I can actually, because you can't have apps on here. There are no apps on Remarkable. So I can't just like open Slack and throw something in there, but I can email a file to Slack from the device. And it's so great because there's like one export button and it's like email. And then I just click whichever address I need to send it to, and then it's off. And I'm also off to the next meeting, to my kids' soccer practice, whatever I need to be. I mean, I honestly can't believe I haven't talked about very many tech tools that have actually changed my work. I mean, yes, I went from a PC to a Mac, and like
that was a big deal.
It improved my work. It made it faster, but it was still a computer.
That made you more popular with the right people.
That was the iPhone did change my work, but honestly, not always in a better way. Because I've been so much more available. Yeah. Having to manage my own calendar for a long time before I got my amazing assistant, Casey.
I'd say that one's like big blessing and a curse, kind of like a lot of things. Yep. This one seems more blessing.
Yeah. This thing has like actually fit seamlessly into my workflow. I don't find myself kind of like, the Fuji camera where it's just like, where you like the tool, but it just doesn't work with your brain. Mm-hmm. This one, it just immediately replaced the notepad on my desk, which I was obsessed with that notepad. I had Ben design specifically a Fruitful notepad of a specific size. Oh yeah, so that my mouse could fit on top of it, and that I could take notes. But then those notes would just stay on my desk. This actually changed the way that I work and helped communication with our team. And I just I did not know that was possible. Been very, very impressed.
Remarkable.
And again, no one is sponsoring this video.
They might be. We need to reach out to them before this goes on. In case of
that all to say, the theme that I think you'll kind of hear us saying through here is that it's the best tools are the ones that you use. Yeah. It's sometimes it's a smaller camera, sometimes it's a smaller guitar, sometimes it's a more focused device. We've kind of become tech maximalists. We talk about like minimalism in home decor, maximalism in home decor, and it seems like having a better and better camera in your phone, or having a bigger and better camera, or there's like Bluetooth connected coffee mugs now. Like that kind of, it's like it seems like going more and more and more and shoving features in. One of the reasons I'm just so impressed with this, I watched the entire release video about this, and it's these guys in Europe, like Scandinavia somewhere, I think, and of course, they just talked about how like there's stuff they're not ever gonna do. Kind of,
it's like accepting your limitations a little bit. There's something good about that,
and they purposefully make choices to slow things down a little bit. And it's not easy necessarily to do everything that you'd want to do. Yeah. And it turns out to be exactly what I've been looking for. And so if you hear anything from us, it's try a lot of different tools, find the ones that really work for you. I hate the idea that like if the tool isn't working for you, that there's something wrong with you. That's just, to me, that's silly.
Yeah, reject that.
And then the other side of things I would say is, then when you find a tool that works for you, a lot of times it's about the focus it brings, the simplicity it brings, not necessarily as much about the way that it just like steals your attention.
Yeah.
I want something to be exactly what I need it to be and nothing more.
Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it.
If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design.
But until next time, don't forget to grow something good.